Happy to be joined in studio by a former Scientologist. Adam Holland joins us. Adam, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
So you were born into Scientology, correct?
Yeah, I was born to a Scientologist father and mother. I wasn't necessarily inside a building belonging to Scientology, so I was out there in the public, living in a regular house, going to school.
And what's that like mingling in, I don't want to call it regular society, but growing up with a religion or a faith or a belief that other people might marginalize?
Well, one of the differences when my dad was talking to me about Scientology and how it relates to other religions is I had the belief that Scientology was the one. It was better than others. So while I yet try not to be arrogant as a kid, I had this hidden feeling that I knew better than other kids. I knew more than other kids in school, and that interfered with my ability to interact with them.
That's probably not that much different than a lot of people who are devout in whatever religion that they are. They think theirs is the chosen way. Mm-hmm. How does that make you different?
Well, I guess compared to kids my age, it gets pretty extreme at even a young age. And that comes from the way they run their corporations throughout the world and the way they teach their followers.
And you call it a corporation? Do they call it a corporation as well?
No, they're not going to call it a corporation. They'll call it a church. But I'm going to call it a corporation because one of the fascinating things we may find if the people are permitted to call in after this is that they have people specifically trained to call in and discredit me as completely and thoroughly as possible so that nobody's going to believe anything I say. So I call it a corporation because one of their tactics is to claim that anybody against it is an anti-religious person or a person against religion. And I don't have that. That's not my status. My statement is I'm just raising awareness about a corporation that I don't agree with the way they operate.
Adam Holland is with us. He's a former Scientologist who's now speaking up against this resort in Orangeville. I want to get to that in a second. So, we hear all about these people who will go down and picket the office here in Toronto on Yonge Street, and they all wear these masks because they're afraid of how they'll be portrayed in the media. Is that what you were speaking to?
No, they're afraid of being followed, intimidated, and harassed by officials or operatives from the corporation.
Now, has that happened with you?
Not yet. So far, I'm very lucky, and really, I have to thank the people who come before me. There's some very, very dedicated people with wonderful hearts, and what they are trying to do is let people know and raise awareness about what happened to them and the things that they have had to endure in order to get that message out has sort of lessened the threat because now the corporation has got to deal with so many different people that it's hard to just target one person and shudder them into silence.
Yeah. Now, what did you have to deal with? We talked about the younger years for you growing up as a Scientologist, but what kind of things did you have to deal with within your family?
There wasn't actually too much. My family had a divorce, which is, it's nothing particularly different than other families. So I live mainly with my dad. And other than just growing up and going to school and doing things that a kid normally does, there was a lot of, we would talk about things in a Scientology context. So it was relatively normal up until the point that I was actually recruited to join the elite management and live there.
And how old are you when that happens?
I was 19 when that happened.
Now, is that something that happens to every Scientologist kid?
No. Some people, and the majority of people who are Scientologists, will continue on in a normal life, and they'll go to work and they'll have their own house. They may come in on the evenings or the weekends to, in the case of Scientologists in Toronto, they may come in on the evenings and the weekends to take courses at the 696 Yonge Street, the Church of Scientology building.
So when you're recruited at 19, what happens?
This is what they like to compare to something as honorable as joining the Canadian Forces in support of the country. This is you go in there, you live there, you eat there, you sleep there. They have different types of uniforms that mirror the Navy military style uniform, and there's ceremonial dress, and there's a typical business dress, and orders are given, and it functions very much in that fashion.
Are you allowed to leave?
Well, that's what they told me when I started, but my experience turned out much different than what I originally thought.
Why? What was the, when you're 19, are you still as big a believer in this Scientology as you are when you start to lose doubt? And why do you start to doubt what you're doing?
Well, when I started, I was a full believer in Scientology and the concepts that they had. I also consider myself a volunteer, and I wanted an opportunity to contribute to the community. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be the case. But yeah, I went in and I was going in with the full beliefs. I was fully a Scientologist as any other Scientologist would be.
There is a new compound coming up to the Orangeville area, and a former Scientologist in studio with us right now, Adam Holland, has been picketing it and has a bit of a problem with it. So let's go back to 2009. You were in California. You grew up in Canada, but were you in California? Were you recruited to go down to California to go to the Scientology training? Is that accurate?
I was recruited in Toronto.
Yeah.
I did spend some time in California, but because I was fully a believer, I went down there, and it was pretty uneventful. But I had very limited involvement with them there. I came back to Toronto, and during that last part of the year, when I was in the Toronto compound, that was where things kind of went wrong.
What were the warning flags?
Okay, well, the first thing that I noticed is when I came back from California, I had it was actually my birthday. It was in the summer, and I said, "Hey, it's my birthday. I'd like to, I've been out of the country. I'd like to go back and celebrate my birthday with my dad." And you have to you have to write a letter and get it approved before you can go. I was like, okay, fine, I'll fill out the letter, but. The personnel manager, Sylvie Melinchuk, handed me back the letter saying, okay, you can go this time, but just so you know, you don't always get the day off just because it's your birthday. And that, it should have stuck me. It should have alarmed me a little bit more than it did, but I let it slip. And so I went for the day, came back, and I continued to do my service with this management.
Working 18-hour days.
Yes, working 18-hour days. Like I said, when I say I'm a volunteer, I mean it. Now that I'm out, I do intend to continue volunteering. So 18-hour days, but as a believer in Scientology, a fully dedicated believer, I was willing to do whatever it took to forward our religion and to make it work.
Could you ever leave after that? That was the first warning flag, but what happened when you wanted to leave subsequent to that?
Well, one of the things that you'll find when you go sort of behind the curtains into the management of what we see on every day walking past. If anybody walks past 696 and sees that building, that's sort of the show. But where I was behind the scenes, and that's the things that most people will not see. And there was sort of always this borderline control that, okay, they acknowledge that people do need to go, but it's tough. And the next time I actually got a chance to go was Christmas of 2008. And they were saying that, and this is one of the things, is that this control is dedicated almost solely to the generation of income. And on Christmas morning, they said if we meet our sales quota, meaning the sales of books by L. Ron Hubbard, by noon, you get to go. And if we haven't sold enough, well, I'm sorry, you won't be able to see your family until maybe 9 o'clock that night, very briefly, if at all. So we made our sales quota. We sold enough books, and I was able to go for, I think, the last 3 hours. I had a quick dinner, and I had to get back really fast because, like I said, they have this really, really strong control. They wanted me back before the end of the night. So
what other unusual discipline methods do they use?
That's one. The other one is whenever sales are down, they will at the end of the night, which for us is midnight, they will get us to do as dirty cleaning as possible, cleaning toilets, cleaning bathrooms, cleaning the grunge under the kitchen, the sinks and stuff. So it's pretty tough.
So you're raised to think one thing about Scientology, and you're okay with that, and then you become almost this person who's working with slave labor conditions to try to make money for the corporation. Is that basically what turned your mind on the belief or on the religion?
This is what made me realize that I was working for a corporation that wasn't, interested in benefiting the community. It wasn't interested in truly and fully getting out there and supporting the community. It was working to serve itself.